Let's see. All right, the trailer's done. All right, we're back. Another episode. First, the sponsors. Head over to the website, johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out a complete list of the sponsors there. It's the end of the year. I want to thank all the sponsors, everybody, all the support. Leave reviews, tap like, do all the above. Last shout outs to all the brands, everybody that supports everything. Appreciate you guys. There's no greater man to thank, and no other way I'd wrap the year up and chat and do a little review than this guy right here, Coach Casey Halstead.
My brother.
What's going on?
Just hanging out, getting ready to kick off 2022.
What are you thankful for?
Well, thankful that we made it through this year intact. Business is thriving. It was up in the air for a minute. Didn't quite know how this thing was going to turn out.
We still don't, right?
Yep. But we stayed positive, kept grinding.
Well, what do you want to say to all the gym owners out there? Keep your head down and keep working.
That's it. The name of the game, when these lockdowns started happening, my business model mission statement was one thing. And then when all this stuff started happening, the name of the game was to just stay in the game.
Yeah.
It was just
survival,
tighten up, make it happen.
It's crazy. It's crazy time. What are you going to do, right? But hey, we're on the other side of it. You and I haven't got together in a long time and done this. It's great to catch up. It's going to be an exciting year end. Hopefully we get some changes in the government. Hopefully some changes come our way. We're counting on that. I mean, who knows? Who knows how it all plays out? But it is scary. It's been a wild ride, and it's going to be interesting to see how it does play out. But we all don't know how it ends, and that's the truth. None of us have the answer. Now, looking back, it's kind of a wild year. We didn't know where we were going to be at the beginning and how it was going to end, and when even places were going to open back up if they were. But we got to where we are, and I'm thankful for it. I think it's been a good journey. You got that beautiful new gym now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
4,000 square feet of straight mats, wall to wall, people.
Yeah, it was important for me during COVID to kind of show strength to our student base. So I decided that
smart move.
What better way than to show that we're not going anywhere than expanding during the lockdown. It was a pretty bold move. It was a big risk, a lot of money involved. But, we were able to pull it off, and we're benefiting from it now.
I think you were really smart to do that. Now, are you getting closer to what your dream scenario would have been for a gym? Are you one step closer? I mean, what's next? 10,000 square feet?
No, I'll never go that big. I mean, my business model was 24 locations, own the buildings, retire, that. And COVID changed all that for me. I decided that that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to get real streamlined, real deep, fix my operations, which you've been a big help with. We're still there. I move slow and deliberate in that regard. But, I feel like we're doing a good job, and we're just going to, maybe 7,000 square feet, maybe.
The thing I've learned the most from watching you do your thing is the measure twice and cut once. I'd measure once, kinda. You measure twice always and cut once. And that's something I learned from you kind of the hard way. It's like better to be overly right than kind of right.
Yeah, my wife's a big influence in me on that. She's very deliberate when she moves, and she doesn't like to do things twice. And, so how I am.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, with decision making, I move real slow.
It's hard to do. Not everybody can do that. Now, the gym gets opened. We're up and running. It's all fun and good. Is jiu-jitsu as good as you thought it would be this year, or do you feel like some of the gyms really need a lot of help? Who's out there struggling still, and how can people help? Just by signing up?
Yeah, I mean, COVID had a weird way of just kind of exposing you. So like the gyms that weren't doing well, those gyms had the reason or the opportunity to fold. And we saw a few of them do that. The gyms that were doing well and the people that were in it for the right reasons and motivated, it seems like they thrived. I mean, students-wise, our gyms have done amazing here in Vegas. Like, we've grown 15%, 20%.
It's amazing. And I think there's obviously a push for people to be more self-sufficient, more than it's ever been. Even when I first came here and talked to you about it, having more of a self-defense aspect, but I think that's coming in more and more now. Obviously, you have more people coming in, and I see it by the people on the mat, more regular people just interested in learning a martial art, which I think can be a great thing as long as you can keep the doors open and service the need. That's always the struggle, but I think there's more of a demand for it now than there's ever been in so many ways. And people are curious. I would say you have a lot of people that are curious, like, I want to learn something and, I want to do it. So I've always been kind of the thinking, do it to the scale that you can do it. Whether it's like you can go 1 day a week, go 1 day a week. If you go 2 days a week, go 2 days a week. But figure out a system that works for you and stick with it. And that's kind of how a lot of people are going to approach things, timidly almost, as they ease out of COVID, if you catch my drift.
I do, for sure. I think one thing that COVID did, it was a benefit that was unintended for sure, is number one, people that have always wanted to do jiu-jitsu that didn't do it, and then all of a sudden the government takes away the ability to do it, kind of drove them to it. You want what you can't have, kind of thing. So there was that. And then the health benefits. I mean, we know that people that are being affected by COVID the most are the unhealthy. Right. So a lot of people are like, okay, I've tried 24-hour fitness. I'm not motivated. Cool thing about jiu-jitsu, all you got to do is show up. And once you get to the gym, I'm going to take over from there. So I think the fact that it was taken away gave people the motivation to go ahead and get started now. And then the health and fitness aspect as kind of a remedy to COVID.
Now, this has people, every owner, exploring new ways to connect with their students, because connecting with the students is the hard thing in this environment, because you're not seeing them all in class. They're coming in spotty. It's hard for anyone to kind of make sense of that and make that work, let alone being a sole business owner or having 4 or 5 black belts. Have you looked at and had to re-examine all of that? And what advice do you give your guys out there and anyone out there trying to connect back with their students? Maybe some disappeared during COVID and they're trying to get them back. What's the best way to do it? I know you do a lot of big text chains, and I know that's something a lot of people use. What advice do you give?
Well, I think naturally the people that wanted to stay in the game during COVID, we kind of switched to the online model. So connectivity has increased tremendously just across the board. You see the online jiu-jitsu market is thriving. People are making a living doing that.
Yeah, we had, what's his face on? Mike Zanga.
Yeah, I know a few people that have offered for me to buy their gyms just because
they want out.
They want out, but they want to keep the gym. They want to stay teaching at the gym, but that's where they create their content. They just don't want the stress of actually operating it. So it's like, buy the gym from me, take all the money that the gym makes. I'll teach all the classes, pay me as a coach. I'll create my content. So people are really up in that. But culture, connectivity has always been something that we've been good at. So we really didn't have to make a hard pivot there. The only thing is just putting more technique online probably, and shoring up some of the business stuff.
Do you believe in giving some of the content that you give your students free, and then there's always a component that, people want to pay to have like the companion now, like the online companion to go with it. Like you see Henner making money left and right, selling these little flip books and everything else and anything he can get his hands on. Do you think that that's where it's going?
The funny thing is, way before COVID, you were talking about that.
Yeah, I was. And I was trying to tell you to do it. And you were like, fuck you.
Yeah, I still, I put a lot of technique out there. I don't really that's really not what I'm good at. What I'm good at is running a room and creating culture. And so I put technique primarily for free. I have a Go-Go grappling account and then a Kajabi account on my website.
Makes you rethink it though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always going to just give it to the people. It's like $4.99 a month or something like that.
No, and you pretty much make it free. I mean, it's not like you're trying to sell it a certain way, but I think more gyms are going to be doing that, having something that's like, hey, for $10 you can get this little companion, like this cheat sheet to go with you, or it's got to be somebody that wants to see their goals, and be able to get there. But having your own in-house content, I think, is something everybody's thinking about post-COVID. Like, you can't just rely on, seminars and everything else, because it's how do you put them together? Can't.
Exactly. You gotta look at it. It's got to be seminar money, competition money, online money, gym money. You got to spread it out now.
Yeah.
You just can't do one. You got to have 5 streams. Retail.
I think what 10th Planet has to do, I'm going to give away the fucking secret sauce right here. If Eddie gets a copy of this, maybe you and him can get together. You should just do a whole video series that's like the all-stars of 10th Planet, and then in some of the black belts, and then just sell it as like a 3-hour special or something. Everybody does their favorite technique, the top guys, and then put that available in every gym and just let everybody have a share of it.
I feel like something like that is available.
We just don't know where.
Honestly, man, I don't pay attention to that stuff very much. I got a lot going on, and I'm still focusing a lot in the MMA world.
But you like that better. You enjoy it.
I don't know if I like it better. It just
more
happened.
Human interaction.
Yeah, it just happened though. Like, it wasn't. I didn't set out to be an MMA coach. I'm just grappling.
Wow.
It just turned out that, like, coached a couple of my friends, and then it just went from there. And then how sometimes the career chooses you.
I know you get excited about all of them next year. Who are some of the guys and gals you're excited about?
Oh man, we got some really big fights right out of the gate. It's been a slow December, for us.
That's good.
Yeah, it's been real good. Yeah. But Cody Stamann's got a big fight.
Woohoo! Anaheim, right?
Yeah, Anaheim, the 22nd.
Shout out to Cody.
Yep. And then Casey O'Neill, who's a up and comer. I think they're rating her like the #1 fighter under 25 or something like that.
It's crazy. She's had a lot of success early.
Well, 3 finishes right out of the gate. All 3 dominant grappling.
You're trying more to calm her down than anything, right? To keep her level-headed and keep her going forward at the right pace. You don't want to rush her.
Yeah, I mean, with Casey, to me,
there's a lot of talent there.
There's that experience is low, athleticism is high.
Oh yeah, here we go.
And then as those two start to meet, your athleticism dies as you get older, but your experience gains. So your whole life becomes a matter of positioning in MMA, right? You're trying to position yourself. So I think she's going to be the champ for sure at 125. I think we're a couple of years ahead of that still. So you're right. For me, it's all about positioning, making sure we're crossing T's, dotting I's. She's a real man.
There's a risk to being rushed. Like if you look at what's her face, Weili Zhang, right? She comes in, was 8-0 when she got here, or 9-0, whatever it is, wins 2 or 3 fights, gets a title shot, boom, wins the title. And now where is she? You know what I'm saying? Because it's harder to come back and get that second or third shot. Now, do I think she'll get another crack at Rose? Of course. I mean, that's going to be, maybe. But does Rose have to, having the 2 wins under her belt? No. She can run from that fight for a long time, so it leaves you kind of in no man's land. You know what I mean? So there's a risk to being rushed.
Yeah, I mean, this exists in military, in big corporate America, the Peter principle, people get promoted to their level of incompetency, and then they either stay there forever and operate incompetent, or they get fired, right? And in fighting, it happens too. You're 24, you get a couple big wins, they put you up against a top 10 fighter, you get a win, and then now you're fighting for a title and you lose. And
you said this, yeah.
And then what do they do with you? You just fight everybody on the way up. So you're going 500 the last half of your career. Whereas I really like the way Chito Vera, I like the way they handled him. I think he's got 19 fights in the UFC now.
Yeah.
And he hasn't fought for a belt. And he's ranked number 8. And he's 28 years old in his athletic prime.
Yeah. With
a ton of high level experience. He is primed in the next year to have a title fight and actually win it.
Yeah.
2022, 2023, I could see that kid like getting in there and getting a shot at it.
You can see when guys are getting handled properly. We saw it a little bit with Chiesa. Michael's not rushed too much. It's kind of, he's trying to fight at his level. And I think that's really important because you've always said this. It's harder to get that second crack. Like Aldo had to reinvent himself and he has to battle all the way back to be in those conversations. And that's a long journey. It just takes time. Like Zhang, you have to understand the position you get put in. If you lose that title shot like Colby Covington, you lose those shots, now you kind of end up in a no man's land. You're almost better off going to professional wrestling at that point.
Yeah, bare knuckle boxing, OnlyFans, whatever. But
OnlyFans.
The key word that you said there was crack. You know, so like you're building yourself up, you're creating momentum, you're on a tear, you're winning in your mind. All these guys are good fighters. Every single person in the UFC is a great fighter, right? So it's all mental. So let's say you get rushed too fast and then you run into a buzzsaw. You got to go all the way back down the totem pole and fight your way back up. Yeah. It's really hard to do that emotionally, you know? It really is. And so, like, I want to see Casey kind of move slow, you know, really, I want to see her look different. When you're 24, you can change too. Like, you're not going to look the same. For me at 47, if I can increase my jiu-jitsu 0.5% a year, that's a big deal.
And I think it's giving yourself time to lose and avenge your losses. You see what I'm saying? And it takes a certain kind of fighter to understand, all right, maybe I'm 7th and I'm fighting a 4. Maybe I lost, right? But can I come back from 7? If I drop to 10, of course I can. You know, a couple of five. Okay, let me learn my lesson and let me right the wrong. And I always find it more impressive, and I know you do too, when fighters go back and avenge the losses. You know, Hagler did that throughout his career. A lot of guys have done that. And to me, it says a lot about who they are when they do that.
It does, for sure. I mean, you know, you wanna wipe the slate clean. You don't want to be a champ and have somebody not in the rankings that's knocked you out. You know what I mean? Like, you want to go prove that was a fluke and get it back and leave no doubt when you're the champ.
In fighting, I think too much emphasis gets put on being undefeated. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Like, oh, they're undefeated or they're this, and that makes them, you know, whatever, X. It's not about being undefeated. There's two different types of mindsets. There's people that can vie for the championships multiple times, like a Tom Brady, and they're willing to lose. It's like going into any relationship. You have to be willing to lose. But the longevity piece is what says so much. Some people stay too long. Some people get out too quick. It's finding that proper mix, like you said with Chito, where you're at the right age, it's like a wine, aging at just the right time to get the most shots that you can. Maybe it's 2, you know, maybe it's a crack at, you know, an interim championship, and then it's the next thing. So that's all not easy to do. And you got to deal with the psychology of mad men and women. So it's not easy. But it'll be fun to watch next year. Anyone else besides Casey, Cody?
Julliana Rosa. Julian is probably...
I love that guy.
I mean, he's had 9 lives in the UFC. He's... It's crazy because, like, I go back. I don't want to do it now because it's kind of painful. But I go back and I look at all of his fights, right? And we were in every fight.
Right.
And there's guys that are really killing it that he's fought, right? And we're winning the fight, and then something bad happens. You go back and you count over his like last 11 fights that I've had him with. I've been with him for 11 fights now, and if we turned if the ball bounced in our way a couple of those fights, he's in the top 10 at 145. I mean, he's got to be the best comeback fighter of the year for sure.
Isn't that how it is, though? Isn't that how it is? You got to get lucky. I always say I'd rather be lucky than good. You need a little bit of luck baked into it. And the ball has to kind of bounce your way. Like I was at the fight when he threw that Darce on the guy. You know, we were there. And I saw you guys. It's just he does stuff like that you're like, holy shit. And then you like, you know what I mean? So he gets in these good spots, and he has at 145, he's so awkwardly long. I love you, Julian. But he's so awkwardly long. He's able to do such really cool shit. You know, and, you know, God bless him. Yeah, he's one of my favorite guys out there right now. I definitely, I look forward to him having a long career. I feel like he's one of those guys 3 years from now we could be talking about him.
I think so.
He just hangs around, and there's something about that. He's just got that alligator blood.
He believes in himself more than anything. Like, even in a couple of those losses, we got cut, you know? We got cut in the UFC. We were on a 3-fight losing streak. And never once did he get shaken. He didn't fire the coaches, nothing. Like, we just kept grinding. And I mean, the thing is like, you see the eyeball test, he passed. You know, he passes the eyeball test. And
I know all about that. Yeah.
He just stuck with it. And I mean, You know, he's still a little wild guy. He likes to get in firefights, too much for me. Like, if we were scheduled to fight Damian Maia, the plan would be to go to the ground. You know, that's just, he's very good on the ground. And it's like, you want to strike with all these guys. We get them on the ground, it's over. It's an easy night. It's Miller time. Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, listen, he's exciting and he's fun to watch. And he was probably my favorite fight to be at just because he does things sometimes with such ease that you're like, am I watching the same guy I watched, you know? But what advice do you get? Because you have so many, you get people like Julie that they live on the bubble, right? Until they get on that run. Do you tell guys when they get cut from the UFC, like, go fight Nel Combate for a little while? Like, what advice do you give them when they're sitting there in the locker room? I've never asked you this. What do you say to, like, what's the next step? Like, just sit tight. Let's see what happens. Let's go back to the well.
Well, the game's pretty heartless, to be honest, you know? So
absolutely.
When you get cut, you don't get cut that night, right? Like, they don't just cut you right there. So maybe you fought your contract out. Maybe you're on a 2-fight losing streak on a contract and they cut you later.
Right.
You know how you find out? When you go to thumbprint in at the PI and it doesn't work.
Right.
And then Forrest has to come out
I've
and
heard
tell
that,
you you've
yeah.
been cut. I mean, that's a real thing, right?
Yeah. It's their process. I don't know if it's right or wrong.
Just in general, you know, it is the idea that nothing's for certain.
Right.
That makes this game so good. The hard times are so bad and the good times are so great. You know, that win, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got to keep everything in perspective. You know, if there's 11 fights on the card, there's 22 fighters. 11 fighters are going home upset. 5 of them are getting cut. That's the way the game is. And it's not for the faint of heart, you know? And I've told fighters, you know, we got to re-examine what we're doing here and try to figure some stuff out. And then, like, with Julian, I'm like, man, you're right there. We were winning that fight. Like, we just got to keep doing what we're doing.
It's a maturity thing, you know, in all aspects. Understanding, you know, when to get in, like you said, the melees and reel it in. It's an exciting group, and I can attest, being on the mats what little I am, that it's a great group of guys and gals too, and they're a lot of fun to train with and roll with. And I think, like I've said it to you before, I think it's one of your best groups. I think it's one of your best groups of folks. Cynthia, everybody all the way down the line, everybody that gets a chance to train with us is a lot of fun. I'm not sure if you know, if next year is going to be the same as what we've dealt with this year. Hopefully not. You know, hopefully things start to swing the other way. We get more live shows. It gets a little bigger, and, you know, there's a little more excitement around it. But not a lack of people coming into the sport, huh?
No, I mean, it's crazy. It's blowing up more than ever. I think Dana, you know, it's funny because Dana White as a CEO, as an executive, he's the only one that could have done what he did.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember in my own career, back when I was in corporate America, I remember losing a promotion at one point, and my boss told me, the thing that makes you great is the thing that holds you back. You're too aggressive. You talk too straight. You don't play politics. And, you know, I think Dana White meets that role too. And because of his tenacity and his audacity, I think he single-handedly blew this sport up during COVID. I mean, we were the first ones to open back up and go to work.
Yeah, he had the, you know, you have to give him credit for having the vision to take combat sports where it's gone. And now with obviously the content, you know, coming off of a lot of the different grapple matches, I think there's an opening there. And I was going to ask you this for the future of guys and gals in the sport to stay a little longer and maybe participate on a UFC grapple team or whatever it is. It gives people more opportunity to make money in something they love. And I think that that's really important too. And I think everybody likes to point out people's faults. You know, we don't get paid this, we don't get paid that. We deserve more of this, we deserve more of that. But, you know, on a larger scale, there are larger missions too at different times.
One of the really cool things that's happened, I would call it like 7 years, but really the last like 3 years, is with kind of the, I wouldn't call it destruction, evaporation of like network TV, cable, dish. That is just not necessary anymore, right? No. So everybody's streaming. So with all these apps, there's apps like Flow TV, UFC Fight Pass, all these different apps. DAZN was one.
Fight Channel, whatever.
Fight Channel. They're all trying to put on shows and they want to generate content, right? So like, a guy like Andy Varela, the ninja, he's one of my guys. He was a fighter making $300, $500, $600, $700 a fight. And then he took about a 2-year break, 3-year break from fighting and started focusing on grappling. Probably one of the best in his weight class in the world. I'd say top 3. And he's actually making 10x what he would make fighting and grappling. And what he's done is he's built his platform so big now that this year he's coming out of retirement from fighting and he's going to start fighting again, MMA. And his first fight, he'll make 4 times more money than he was when he stopped fighting MMA because of the grappling, because of UFC Fight Pass, Submission Underground, all those things he's been on.
Because you can use it a little bit like an intermediate or a minor league for a little while to get your name built up, because that's what it's all about. And people have to see the greater good of all the different infrastructures being built. Like, I know at the core, and I know you agree with this as a business owner, for any of all of Dana's quote unquote faults that people see, or the UFC promotions faults that people see, they're trying to build out something that's a long game. And I can even see that, and I know you can too. That's like, hey, maybe when your fight career is over, you could grapple. We have this and we have that. That just takes a lot of time. They're starting to do these events. They're starting to do them in the UFC now. So they're starting to put energy behind them. It's just, this stuff isn't going to happen overnight. The league is still only, 20, 30 years old. It's not, and really only 20 years old. It's really still in its infancy. The first 5 or 8 years were very ragtag.
Yeah, one of the really exciting things too is I oftentimes say jiu-jitsu, MMA. We'll just lump it all together, right? Jiu-jitsu and MMA, because they evolved at the same time. So I would say that we are on the trajectory of skateboarding.
Yeah.
Right?
I could see that.
So like when we first started, there was no support companies. So it was just, we were buying Under Armour and
buying it off the rack.
And judo gis and stuff like that. And then now the infrastructure is being developed by the people in the game.
Yeah.
And I think Dana's done a really good job. I love the way the UFC operates. I like how commentators are now mostly UFC fighters. So they're kind of like, you fight, you're a company man. When you retire, you work at the PI. Or you get to the booth, or
and that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. You know what I mean? You're not going to be coaching a football team and be the GM, coaching a high school team and be the GM of the Patriots tomorrow. All that takes time. It has to build itself out. And you have to have the infrastructure. And you have to have the people that want to stick around the sport and take a chance on seeing where it's going to go. Because I'm sure when Forrest took the job, I'm sure he thought, hey, I'm going to be here forever, maybe, if this thing works out, because I've had him on the show and he said, look, you were just fighting because it was the next $5,000. It's like, that was why you were fighting. You didn't know where it was going to come from. These things take time. And I think the UFC had the right approach through COVID. And at the end of the day, you have to look at it for what it is. It's a content creating organization, and you have to create more and more content. And that's what people don't understand. Content becomes the currency. Now, aside from the UFC, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about this year. You want to talk about Dust?
Dust?
Detroit Urban Survival Tactics.
Oh, my God.
Listen, give everybody, because I'll clip this, give everybody your thoughts on Dust.
Well,
does he think he's legit?
Let me tell you this. The man has done an amazing job recently, because I think he started out as trying to be legit, and then quickly realized that he wasn't, and then he's pivoted to kind of a parody of
I've
himself.
offered him to be on the show. I told you this.
What did he say?
I went. So this was the deal. I pitched him to be on the show, and it's the first time I'm talking about this. Recently, I have the corresponding communications, everybody. But I said, if you want to be on, I want to do it as a roundtable. You were involved in this. I said, I'll have Chad Lyman, Byron Rogers, probably Casey Halstead. Chad's one contention was, he said, I'm not going to be nice to the guy. It's going to be somewhat of a hostile environment, in terms of questioning the technique, everything else. And I figured we'd have a couple of murderers here in case we wanted to go try the technique after over at Extreme. So I had laid it out to him as, you're going to be on the show. No one's going to do anything stupid, but you're going to debate these things. If we still have doubts and you still feel strongly about your techniques, we can go over to the mats after and demo them. And I would have made it into a 2-parter where I would have given you guys the content of the second half. Like, you could post that on your pages. Obviously, guys, to everybody listening and you here, he didn't get back to me after I laid out the score. We offered him a plane ticket. We offered him a room. You know how I do. I'm like, what do you want to do? And he never got back to us. I think he knew that would have been the breaking point. Now, other people have interviewed him, like Collion Noir interviewed him, gave him a total pass, a total walk. But that's because Collion Noir is not a MMA guy. He doesn't know what he's looking at. He doesn't know how to even articulate an argument. But when you look at the techniques, I agree with you. You almost have to believe somewhere along the way he's like, I'm fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
I mean, the Z-lock.
How about when he squeezed the two heads together?
Dude, putting your finger in the trigger guard.
It's awesome. The guy in the car was the best one.
Jeez.
Like, I don't know. I've seen some carjackings. I've seen a lot of like the way he depicts it is like you're an accountant for the mob and someone's coming to rob your house.
You know, I've actually been shot at in a crazy situation, and you know what I did?
Stabbed.
You know what I did? Nothing. Nothing.
No, it's so true. There. People kill me. I've been robbed. Like, you're like, here's my wallet. Here.
It was 10 o'clock at night in LA, and someone drove by and they shot at us with a shotgun. Sure. And it was so loud. It was maybe 5 feet away.
I said, yeah.
And all I did was I just puckered up, and then they shot again. And I just stood there and watched the car drive away. My feet never moved.
Even when you start working on, in any situation, when you start working on a 360 range where everybody's hot and all direct, everything, it all ratchets up to a certain level. Now, I want to get to this with him because it's hilarious. I know, I agree with you. I think he's starting to reflect and starting to see it. But a lot of people debate where the irresponsibility is. A lot of people say people are watching this and they're going to try this. You and I both know 99% of people aren't going to try it, and 99% of people aren't going to take his class. The 1% that are, if you're not taking that as like pure entertainment, it's like, because you could pick on a lot of martial arts, right? In fairness to the guy, you could pick on a lot of martial arts. But I think where his failure is, he should at least have a disclaimer that it's like, my techniques aren't for everyone at the very least. And the question becomes, should he be teaching them? What do you stand on that? Where does the line between you're not a McDojo, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily believe in
Duke Ryu.
No, I don't believe in anybody telling anybody they can't do what they want to do.
Right.
Like
that's what I'm saying.
If he could create a market and people want to buy it, then good. Go ahead. We're all a bunch of free thinking Americans, you know? I will never get in the way of him.
Yeah.
But I'm also a firm believer. So let me just give you an analogy.
Like, where does the responsibility of the industry kick in? Have they done their duty?
Well, I'm gonna give you an analogy right now. You should be able to smoke in my living room, at my house, in front of my kids, if you could kick my ass. Right? So like, you know, if you're crazy enough to go ahead and light a cigarette up in my living room, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences of that, right? So
you've told me that. I love this.
If you want to teach people a martial art and then get offended when a bunch of people start calling you out on the legitimacy of your martial art, then that's where the problem lies. You know, I don't think you should be able to say shit and not have to defend it, or do shit and not have to defend it. So I think by him turning comments off of his shit, I think he's kind of hiding behind a certain level of, you know, protective blocking and filtering.
I think he's a security guard that started posting this stuff and gaining steam. And I think he has a little bit of a security company. And he said, I can turn this into a business. People will sign up for this. And I don't think he expected it to get where it is, because it's become...
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's become like viral for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he's trying to take... It's almost like you becoming famous because you threw someone down... You threw somebody down a flight of stairs.
But you... I mean, listen. It's not just that. Because he wears a uniform
Right.
He's got an iPad on his wrist.
I know what you're saying.
And
earpiece.
And the gloves.
I love the earpiece makes me think it's fake. Who the fuck still uses an earpiece like that?
A jawbone.
Yeah. Well, it's like that's what makes me think it's like he's fucking with us, and he calls himself the commander.
Well, you know why he does that, right? I got to keep both of my hands free. I can't get to a phone because I got to be able to, like, I'm an executive protection agent, you know, that kind of shit. That weird kind of. So, like, yeah, maybe it blew up more than he thought it would. Yeah. But believe me, this is all by design. Yeah. For sure. This was not an accident.
Oh, he's got the badges and the placards and the.
Yeah, he didn't accidentally put
But
on
he's
them gray
so good at it, you think he's fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, he could be trolling us.
Now he's doing shout outs to people.
And he's doing cameos.
What's this?
Yeah. What does he say? Increase your survivability.
Yeah.
How do we poke holes in that? Like, what does increase your survivability even mean?
Well, how can you make that claim?
Like my percent, if you grab the gun, your percentage for living goes up. No, I think it goes exponentially down.
I want to see some testimonials.
Some testimonials.
Because he's claiming to increase your survivability when actually self-defense and knife and gun tactics don't really do that. It would be awareness. So like if he was just teaching awareness, like, hey, it's a dark parking lot. There's a truck and a van. Your car's, you know, how do you get to your car from that's increasing your survivability.
Of course.
Grabbing someone's firearm by the trigger guard, that's not.
It's awesome. It is awesome. That was one of the funner stories this year.
Did you see that kid Kenji shot him a bunch of times?
Yeah. And then they posted a video of like him taking him down and everything. Well, it's like the kid signed up for your class. And the kid was like, he might have been like a blue belt, wasn't he? A white belt?
He was just in the gym like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's like not a bad kid. He's like, it's awesome.
He was super respectful at our gym.
I think so. I think he is one of the more interesting stories this year, and it'll be interesting to see if he shifts to become like, hey guys, I was just playing. Like, it'll be interesting.
Who's the guy, Master Ken?
Yeah, did a thing. That's why everybody started thinking, oh, he's trolling us. Like, he's part of that group. You know, but I hadn't seen any students in any videos till that video. Like, it wasn't students.
What's greater than him being legit? Him being a troll. Could you imagine if he just comes out one day?
And everybody would embrace it right now because everybody would be like, this dude's the man. I think he should just go that way, right?
Yeah,
I would.
just come out with a video with Master Ken and be like, we got all of you guys.
Yeah, we were playing.
Anyone who texted me or commented.
He would get more appearances.
Oh, dude.
He'd be doing circuses.
I'd bring him out for a seminar.
Well, it's funny. I didn't want to say this, but like Chad said to me, because we had it set up in a way where I was going to, if he agreed to do the show, he agreed to all the terms, then I would have said, so it's a gaff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're playing. Like, he would have come out to me a little bit. And that's what I was hoping for, because Chad said, because Chad called me immediately, like his dick was on fire. And he goes, if he's playing, then I was in before, then I'm really in. You know what I mean? Like, because then it would be really funny.
So here's what we do if he's playing. We bring him out to the gym. We
play along with it.
We set up a table.
Yeah.
While he's doing the seminar, we're going to have two MCs. The MCs are going to be you and Hanata Laraja.
Yes.
And you're going to sit there while Detroit Urban Survival Dust is doing a seminar at my gym. That should 100%. Be epic.
It would be epic. We'd sell out. You wouldn't. Dude. And that's why, like, the comedy is better. It's better.
Way better.
So we'll see. That was a good story. Then we had Kyle Rittenhouse this year. I wanted to ask you about that. You and I talked about it, but we don't get time to talk like this. That was probably one of the more interesting expressions of self-defense that we could have come across from a very young buck. So that was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed seeing that. Did you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, tons.
17. He never should have been there, but he handled himself impeccably.
Why not?
Well, I think that if it was your son or daughter, you'd be like, you'd not want to put them in that position.
Listen. So you're right. Maybe he shouldn't have been there from a dad's perspective, right? Or a mom's perspective. But if policies are going to create a vacuum and no one else is going to step up, it takes good, wholesome people to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. I mean, he was put in a position because leadership in that city wasn't reacting and doing what they were supposed to do because of the political climate. You know, I don't fault the guy anyway, too. Like, a pedophile anyway deserves to get shot anyway, in my opinion. Like, not one of those. So here, let's just put it this way. If you get a chance to choose which one of the 4 people you want to be your neighbor, who would it be? You want the pedophile that he shot first? You want the dude with the gun? The dude that hit him with the skateboard? Or do you want Kyle as your neighbor?
We definitely want Kyle as our neighbor, but the law doesn't work that way, unfortunately. As much as I think, you know, Chad or any of us would want it to, I don't think that it necessarily does, but I agree with you. The sentiment rings true. It's crazy. That was a crazy situation, but he handled it impeccably, and the crowd's lucky he didn't shoot the whole shit out of the crowd. But I think he's a fool for going around and doing a lot of the speaking tours he's doing right now. I think he's got to be a little careful with that. Get through, you know, I don't know. Maybe he's got a great legal team, better than
I agree with that. I mean, I would be laying low if I was him, but I don't fault the kid for what he did. I thought if everybody can handle themselves under pressure the way that he did, this country would be a lot different.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
You know, I mean, he was just there trying to help people. These other guys, I mean, obviously they're shit stirrers, you know? They testified and told on themselves.
I think you're right. I think that it was a pure self-defense case. I think the only piece I hold back on is I wish he wasn't there in the first place, obviously. I think I think at that age, obviously he was a little bit of a wannabe. Obviously there was those components. His intentions were good. You just hate to see somebody so young in that position, because how many times are you going to get lightning to strike perfectly? You know, I don't know. Obviously you hope that everybody raises their kids that way, but you know that that's not the case. Because they're, you know, it's a hard one. It's such an in between, you know.
Yeah, but it kind of goes back to.
But I support him 100%.
Is there such thing as bad employees, or is it all just bad management?
You know my thoughts on this.
You know, so it's like, for me, you got a kid who was an explorer. He was trying to be an EMT. He's trying to do this. He's trying to do that. He's just a helpful kid, a lifeguard, doing all this stuff. And then you create a perfect storm for him. I mean, the culpability really falls on local government and leadership, I think. I mean, of course, he was a little bit ambitious and he shouldn't have been doing that. But, I mean, what do you expect? In the lack of real adult male leadership, people are going to step up and try to fill those voids, right? And, I mean, I don't know. I don't blame the kid at all. I don't think he should have been there.
No, I don't think any of it's his fault. I don't think any fault. I mean, if he does these interviews and he says something stupid, then yeah, he's at fault. But I don't put any fault on him.
Anything that happens to him now is his fault.
Is his fault. You know, I do disagree. I don't necessarily think he wants to just go to Arizona and ride off into the sunset. I think he likes the fame too. But we'll see. I just hope the gun industry doesn't bastardize him the way they bastardize everything.
Somebody will make money on him for sure.
I think he should start his own self-defense fund or foundation with the money, because he's got legitimate liability cases and libel cases and defamation cases.
Oh, dude.
For sure.
He should get with Dust and create an executive security systems.
You know, that would be the most epic partnership next to Master Ken and Dust coming out. That would be equally good. But scary too at the same time. Oh my God. Now, my last question, I want to ask you this. Next year, there's a lot of things to be thankful for and to wish for. You know, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think with midterms coming, there'll be a lot of changes. I think a lot of things are on the horizon. And I know it's going to be a tough year. Probably the toughest of everything going through COVID, because we're going to go through this change, and we're seeing it already, you know, in not just in government, but around us. The divide is there, and people are starting to understand what they're going through. What's the ultimate thing you want to see happen next year as we go into 2022?
It's for me, I would like to see us all just come together a little bit, you know, find some common ground.
Reasonable.
Yeah, be reasonable. Find some common ground, and maybe put a halt to the government trying to strip away our freedoms a little bit more. It would be nice if these mandates would stop and both people can realize that the government's not our daddy, and they don't, it's corporate led primarily. And, if everyone can just realize that, and I actually think that at the local level, like the living room level, is the best place to start figuring out how you're going to handle these tough situations. Biden and Trump and these guys mandating and dictating what we're going to do. It's
a mess.
It's a mess. And the more that the higher up, more distant people try to do it, it's just going to be tough. So for the new year, I just hope that we can find some common ground and we can get some of our freedoms back. That would be awesome.
That's the dream, right? We'll see. Renovations in here, you're going to like it when it's done. We're already starting.
I already love it here.
Yeah. It'll be soon. New walls, new everything. It's exciting. Couldn't have done it without you. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Wouldn't be where I am without you. I wouldn't have ended the year with any other guest. So I appreciate it.
It's an honor.
Listen, open mats this week.
Yep.
Nothing big coming up. Just Cody's fight. Right?
Yeah, and then we got Casey and Julliana in February. Yeah, okay. And then got huge business things going on this year. Really excited about. We're going to launch one January.
Perfect.
Game changers.
Listen, head over to the website, johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out a complete list of the sponsors there. It's the end of the year, guys. I wouldn't have wrapped it any other way. This was a special episode. I wanted to bring Coach down, be able to chat a little bit, catch up on the year. Any comments, any suggestions you guys have, let me know. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to all the sponsors, everybody. It's the end of the year. Guys, I get a lot of messages. I'm getting a lot of emails, a lot of shit. I'm doing my best to get back to you guys. I know everybody has a lot of suggestions. Appreciate it. Coach, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being my friend.
Always.
I love you.
I love you.
There, we said it. Two men. We're heterosexuals, and we said it. We're out.